Well, hello there, dead and lovely listeners. It's old Ben here with my main man. Who's that main man over there on the line?
It's me, Stevie Fresh.
It's Stevie. Is that the man known as Steven Spratling of West Coast fucking Hollywood fame?
Yeah, you may know me as the WCW NWO champ. You might see me around town with a sprayed-on beard. You might remember me from taking down Gawker.
Are you the guy that drives around L.A. with the white van with Metallica spray painted on it and black spray paint?
We lived across the street from that guy when we first moved to Hollywood. We stayed with a guy like right behind Hollywood and Highland, which is... to put it in relation to Gatlinburg terms, is like the Strip. Tons of tourists, people dressed like Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Captain Jack Sparrow. Yeah, one night I went to a store to grab a drink, and on my way back I saw a guy dressed as Jack Sparrow who was actually drunk and swaying like Jack Sparrow. It was pretty funny.
That's the best. I'm really happy that happened.
Yeah, and the Metallica van is awesome. So
that's a funny thing that happened, y'all. Is that as you guys know, my main man out here, Stevie Fresh, he moved out to the hills of Las Vegas, Hollywood, Los Angeles, Hollywood. You know, Las Vegas, California.
Viva Los Angeles. You know that song.
And he sent me a picture of this van that had Metallica spray painted on it. He's like, hey, I think I found your van. And then maybe about 6 months to a year or so later, I was actually out in Los Angeles for the NAMM show, which is kind of a musician gear convention kind of thing. And I was just walking down the street going towards the convention center, and there I saw the white Metallica van. I hope he's listening.
I hope so too, because whoever he is, he's awesome. Because it's just spray painted on the side. It's not like professionally done or anything. Close. It's amazing. I love it so much.
What do you think his favorite Metallica record is?
Kill 'Em All.
You think he's a kill? Yeah, probably so, because it's kind of like a crust punk kind of fucking van.
Absolutely.
I would be hugely disappointed if like you met him and he was like, dude, Saint Anger is my fucking shit.
If he was like, I love the documentary. That's it. Okay. I don't even.
Let's go ahead and mention that real quick. So about a month or so ago, I noticed that Netflix added some kind of monster, otherwise known as the Metallica Saint Anger documentary. They added that onto Netflix. Yeah. I hadn't seen that since it came out, which is to say like 2003 or something like that. Yeah, that's
the last time I saw it too, yep.
I hadn't watched it, and so over the course of like a couple of days, I just kind of watched it in segments just to see, it's like, is this as bad as I remember? And
is it?
I'll tell you, like watching it, 10 years after the fact, and after having been exposed to the atrocity known as Saint Anger, I really think if you watch that with a fresh set of eyes, I really do think that it was just basically the documentary filmmakers trying to send a warning to fans about why the album they were about to get was so bad.
Yeah, do you remember the scene where Lars Ulrich is he's bidding for expensive art and drinking champagne?
He's selling his own art collection.
Oh,
for like
he's selling his own art.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then after the auction, he just lays back on the couch and he's like, I'm so exhausted.
Yeah.
Oh my. Oh,
it's the worst.
There's a German word for a face in need of a punch. It's Backpfeifengesicht. and that is Lars Ulrich. And if he's listening, and I know he is, honestly, like, listen, metal drummers, they listen to our fucking podcast.
Oh, yeah,
okay?
clearly.
Vinny Paul calls me all the time, and he's like, my calves are massive.
Yeah.
And huge. I love your podcast. But Lars Ulrich, if you're listening, you have a face in need of a punch.
An uber face in need of a punch. But really, like, if you watch that documentary thinking to yourself, okay, this isn't a glorification of this record and this time period. It's a warning and an explanation of why that record is so. You'll watch it in a totally new light just because they show all the footage of the band, even the footage of the band, like, writing the songs and recording it. I mean, it just sounds like
auditioning bass players. Yeah.
Oh, and then, like, there's all this footage of all these people that are kind of in their camp around them being like, oh, guys, it's so good. Wow. Let's put that on the fridge. It's so good. Wow.
We should cover that as a horror movie.
Oh, my God. That'd be fucking hilarious, dude.
I mean, it's got monster in the title.
It does. You're right. Yeah, it's funny. And I will say as a disclaimer to that, so I don't just sound like a total fucking hater here. It's like Metallica stuff, man, completely did change the course of my guitar playing and life as a musician in general.
Yeah, love Metallica. Yeah. I am not fucking shitting on Metallica. Love Metallica.
Oh, hell yeah. But that record is a pile of shit.
That record's fucking terrible.
It's so bad, dude. It's so bad. Well, the movie that we're reviewing here today is a little French film by the name of High Tension, or as it is otherwise known by its original title, which I think is the name of, like, the best emo band ever since Stained Scars. Do you know the original title of the movie?
It's the British title, the Switchblade Romance.
Switchblade Romance, which is the best emo band of all time.
Yeah, and doesn't fit this movie at all.
Fuck no.
No, there's no Switchblade involved. There is some romance.
A little bit.
I guess. I mean, I guess if you consider killing the person you love, his entire family, and then kidnapping them and trying to kill them too. Romance.
I just call that Tuesday, Steve.
Yeah. Hey, that's when we hunt snails out here. So, all right.
It's
call back. What?
That's a horrible name for the movie. Was this the first time that you've seen this movie?
Absolutely, first time. Never seen this movie before. I have now seen it twice, and I have a lot to say, though I will say the fewest notes I've ever taken for a movie.
How many pages you got?
I believe I have 5.
Wow.
So, and most of those are notes about the context of the movie. So, because this is a blind spot for me in horror. As I said at the end of last episode, this was a period when I was Mormon and didn't watch R-rated movies. Any horror movies I saw during that time were PG-13, so never saw this. I have not seen any of the Saw movies. I've never seen any Hostel movies.
Wow.
I have not seen any of these French new extremist
like Martyrs
movies.
And shit like that.
Yep, never seen Martyrs, never seen any of these. So, this is really interesting for me. I have seen the Hills Have Eyes remake.
I haven't seen the remake. I've seen the OG, which is fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, the OG is great. Alexandre Aja, though, the director of this, and I believe Aja is correct. I looked it up. If I'm mispronouncing it, I apologize. I've seen his Hills Have Eyes remake, and it was pretty good. He is a part, though, of what I am now going to term the elite set of directors involved in the Piranha series.
No fucking way. Did he do 3D or something?
Yeah, I want you to think about this. Piranha 1, the first, 1978, directed by Joe Dante, who goes on to direct Gremlins, etc. Piranha 2, Piranha 2, we talked about it last week, directed by James Cameron.
Jimmy Cameron, director of several noteworthy, actually several of like the biggest grossing movies of all fucking time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's James fucking Cameron.
Yeah.
Piranha 3D, directed by Alexandre Aja. And,
I had no idea.
And Piranha 3 Double D, directed by a guy I have not heard of named John Gallagher, who is a director of a movie that I've read about and heard about a number of times called Feast. It's kind of a cult horror movie that came out in around 2008, I think. So I'm going to check that out because he is a part of this interesting series of directors for movies that, I mean, if you watch the Piranha series, they're fine. Like, not one of them is bad. Not one of them stands out as great. But interesting that so many directors that have made good horror movies have been involved in the Piranha series.
Damn, that's so rad. I didn't know that this guy had done one of the Piranha flicks. That's pretty cool.
Now, we should also talk about the script for this, because the screenwriter is a frequent collaborator with Aja, Gregory Levasseur. He's credited. It is a bit for. I think actually, when I look at his name, I see Pepe Le Pew. I don't know why.
That rapey little skunk.
The thing is, though, that this should get a story by credit from Dean Koontz, as it is almost exactly the story from his novel Intensity.
Really?
Yeah. Aja has admitted that he had read the book, and Koontz has declined to seek any sort of damages for it, because he said that the movie is puerile and not even worth his time.
Well, he basically just said, "I'm Dean Koontz, suck my dick."
Yeah, basically.
Eat my Koontz.
Dean Koontz is whatever. I don't want to talk about Dean Koontz. Whatever. But that's cool that he didn't sue, though it is shitty of them to just basically steal someone's work.
Yeah.
But they do something with it that he didn't do, but it's whatever.
I had seen this movie before. I watched it totally on a whim, and I really enjoyed the movie. I liked it a lot, so I was kind of excited to talk about this one with you. Let me ask you, which edition did you watch, and where did you watch it? Because there's a few different versions.
I watch both. On Shudder they have the dubbed and edited edition. I watched that.
Okay.
Then
yeah, the original one that I watched was the unedited one, and I did notice a few differences.
Yeah, I watched the unedited version when I took notes. So, there are a few differences, and I don't have a problem with the dubbing, honestly, but I do prefer subtitles.
We'll talk about this kind of more later on whenever we're kind of wrapping up, but sometimes dubbing doesn't bug me. Sometimes it does. I'm with you. I think some subtitles would have been totally fine by me on this one, but if you listeners can, definitely try to watch the unedited one. Mainly the stuff that changes is like gore stuff. And there's some really
some scenes are just a little longer.
Gore. Yeah,
yes.
Exactly, man. And especially some of the kill scenes are just way grittier in the unedited one. So if you can, watch that one. So why don't you kick us off here about this thing?
So this movie starts with the I guess it's sort of a classic in the hospital traumatized type of opening.
It's kind of that cold blue light. You see like gowns and bare feet, and you're like, it could be a hospital. Maybe it's a loony bin. I don't know.
Yeah, and the person that we will, meet later as Marie is sitting in a hospital gown with just huge gashes in her back and on her face, and she's repeating the words, I won't let anyone come between us anymore. Just over and over and over and over. And then she asks, are they recording? And it flashes back, but it doesn't flash back to the beginning of the story. It flashes back to the ending of the story. Yeah. Which is, this is, okay. here's the thing about this film. I have to say from the beginning, and why I think I have so few notes. This film is Marie's story, her lie about what happened on this night.
And that's
this is not the story.
And that deals with a lot of criticisms I've seen about this movie. You're right. That little line she says in there, "Are you recording?" Lets you know that what you're seeing here is her account of what's going on. I think a lot of people miss that.
Yeah. Well, you have to watch it twice, I think. I think you have to watch it twice for that to sink in, because watching it the first time, and we'll just go ahead and rip off the Band-Aid. The ending, the reveal that Marie has been the killer the whole time, even though we're shown a different killer who is a tall and brutal looking man. So what you have to, if you watch it just once through, it feels like a ripoff. Like at the end almost. It feels like, what? Yeah. Like, that's stupid.
And you might go, this is full of holes. There's full of, there's no logic in a lot of the things that happen here. But you got to think, you're hearing the story of a fucking crazy person.
Yeah, and that's it. So if you realize that she is telling her story at this point, and that her main victim, the person she was out really to get, is behind see-through glass or see-through mirror, a one-way mirror, that's what they're called, and listening to her tell this story, then you realize that the story probably has elements of truth. There are things that are certainly verifiable, and then there are things that are just made up completely.
Exactly. And so then after that kind of hospital scene is where we get basically where the story really begins, which is with Marie and Alexia in a car. Marie is our main character, short-haired, blonde girl, and her friend Alexia is a brunette with longer hair. And Alexia's driving the car. Marie wakes up in the back seat.
They're driving in the car. They're going to the country to go study.
Yeah, they're basically driving out to Alexia's parents' house. They have a little cottage kind of out in the country where they're going to be doing some studying for some college tests that they have. So just kind of typical, hey, let's go out to the country for the weekend to get ready for these exams or whatever. And the camera cuts to the cottage out at the farm, and we see the mom's out there hanging some laundry up, and who we find is Alexia's little brother, Tom, is like running around playing as a cowboy, right?
Okay, yes, and I want to talk about whether or not that's her little brother in a little bit.
Okay, because their age gap would be like fucking 20 years or something.
Yeah, and there are a couple scenes. Anyway.
Well, after that little scene at the house, we cut to somewhere else. We're not exactly sure where, and we see this big, crazy, like, it looks kind of like the truck that Jeepers Creepers drives.
Yeah. And the guy inside of it is filleting himself with a decapitated head.
That he is. An unusual pastime. I wouldn't call that America's pastime.
No, it's not. Edmund Kemper was a fan.
But yeah, so we see the Jeepers Creepers truck. Guys getting filleted by a severed head. Now, when he throws the head out there, I heard some people say that was Marie's face on the head. But I didn't think it looked like her face, but several people said they did.
I mean, she's making it all up. No, I mean, this doesn't happen at all. None of that happens. So, like, it's all... Yeah, so, like, whatever. It could be anybody's face. But, yeah, I don't see...
Marie doesn't even have a D to get asked, as far as we know.
Yeah, and I don't... Yeah, I don't see Marie's face, but... yeah, like, you have to remember, none of this happens. Does the truck even exist?
Right, like, yeah, exactly. And so then basically we get kind of footage of them sort of driving through the cornfield and stuff towards the house, and they arrive at the little country cottage. Yeah,
the dad is there. He's like, here's Tom. He stayed up to see you. Tom really likes his sister an awful lot.
True.
She takes him to lay him down to bed, and he sleepily says, "Mommy," to her.
Holy shit, he does. And wait, now that you mention this earlier, and I didn't even write it down because it was totally unimportant, or so I thought. But yeah, way earlier in the movie, like when they were in the car, right at the very first of the flick, they were talking about their boyfriends, and Marie was talking to Alexia, being like, "You're such a slut. You've banged like 100 guys." Are you saying that the parents are raising their grandkid as if it was their own kid, and that's actually Alexia's kid?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's exactly what. Okay, because that happens, and then later, I mean, again, spoiler alert, if you're listening to this to just be told the story of the film, later when Tom is killed, he's running and he's yelling, "Mommy, Mommy," and each time he yells "Mommy," it like cuts back to her crying.
Holy shit, it does.
Yeah.
I thought about
And she... Yeah, so I think it's just an underlying sort of story that's her son, and so like,
because their parents would have had that boy when they were like 50 something.
Yeah, because the parents are so old, and she's in college, and this kid he's like 6 maybe
6
7.
or 7, yeah. And then later on, they kind of chit-chat and stuff a little bit. And then later on, Maria goes outside for a smoke. And she goes off to, like, the swing sets outside of the house. And she looks towards the house, and she sees Alexia in the shower with her boobs out.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and she sort of watches it for a while. And this is the point in the story where I'm not sure what actually happened. Now, in the story she's telling, she goes back inside to rub one out because she is in love with Alex, and she and if you on the second watching, you can see it, like when they're talking about guys that Alex is into, like she's talking about how she's not really interested in guys, etc., and she keeps making these comments that, like, it's the same comments that you would see from like your friend who's really in love with your hot female friend, and every time he talks to her, he's like speaking in coded language,
right?
And it's like you can kind of tell it the second time around that that's what Marie is doing. She's like trying to say to Alex, like, "I'm in love with you," but we find out here that Marie is she's a lesbian. She's interested in Alex sexually.
And then, like you said, she goes back inside and she lays down on her bed and she puts on her headphones to find some good
and listens
quality.
to the worst fucking song I think I've ever heard in my life.
Some just big old the dub bass reggae jams, man. And she just sort of jams and has herself a wank.
Yeah, she's having a downstairs DJ party, and at the same time, outside the truck is pulling up to
the Jeepers Creepers mobile.
He kills the dad by kicking his head between two slats in like a rail for stairs.
Yeah, the stair banister.
And then taking a dresser and pushing it into the dad's head, decapitating him.
It's fucking brutal. And in the edited one, it just kind of shows his head just starting to get crushed, and then it cuts away. But in the unedited one, holy fuck.
It's like squirting blood. Yeah, it's brutal.
It wakes you right up. That's for sure.
It does. So is that true? Because here's the thing. She is upstairs now in her room trying to move a very large dresser, and she can't move it. So she, in her story, she's trying to say, like, I was upstairs and I couldn't even move a big dresser. So I obviously didn't decapitate a man by pushing a dresser into his head.
But then at the same time, like, there's been several shots in here. I actually haven't even the notes even like in the shot where she got up to her room, the light was cast on Marie's body in such a way, and Marie is like, she's got really short hair, and she's wearing, for the whole movie, she's wearing like a really short, like kind of cropped t-shirt that's very tight, tight jeans. Like she's buff, dude. You can see in the light, like she has very great muscle definition.
Yes, she is strong. Yeah, it's definitely, and we'll see her like later running with a circular saw, which is heavy. So,
oh my God, yeah, she definitely has strength. So the thing about her not being able to move the dresser is just bullshit.
Then she hears the killer coming upstairs, and she has all this time to sort of like make it look like no one has been in the room, and opens the shower, and right about that time, the killer is getting right outside the door.
Yeah. And
then he comes in, and suddenly she's under the bed. And this is like this would be bad storytelling if the person telling the story was the director here, but the person telling the story is an unreliable narrator. So, like,
she's like in two places at once. Like, she's in the shower, and then it's like, and then I was under the bed hiding.
And he leaves the room and goes after
mom, right?
The mom, yeah. Now, the mother, we just sort of hear the conflict. Well, like, we see the mother come down stairs and see this killer, and the light is shining in her face, and she can't really make out his face. And then we just hear like her being killed, I guess, but we'll find out later she actually isn't killed. She's just
we hear struggle, basically.
Yeah. Then the killer, when he leaves the room and handles the mom, he goes to Alex's room, right? Alexia.
Right. And Alexia's been asleep with earplugs in. That's why she hasn't been awakened by any of this stuff.
Yeah. So...
And he puts a knife to her neck, like a straight razor to her neck, right?
Yeah, and we get like shots of Marie hearing her screaming, but there are no like killing sounds or anything like that.
She just hears the struggle, and that's when she goes downstairs into the parents' room, because she's been trying to find a phone. So she goes down into the parents' room, and she starts to hear struggle from elsewhere in the house. And that's when she hides in the closet, and it's kind of like a classic. It's very like Halloween 1, like the first Halloween shot, where she's in the closet. And it's like she's like kind of looking through the slats. It's really good.
Yes,
and she sees the mom like crawl out into there, and she's all bloody and just fucking looks like she's damn near dead already. And that's when we see the killer come in, and he cuts her throat with a razor, which in my notes I have written down as man cuts mom's throat Steve style, because Steve has had his throat cut open.
Yeah, I actually wanted to tell this story. This is always interesting to me in horror movies when someone gets their throat slit, because my entire life I've had a weird thing about my throat. I've always felt like, I don't want anyone to touch my throat or anything like that. When I was a little bit of a younger man in college at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, I lived in South Knoxville, which some areas of South Knoxville are just nice suburbs, but the area we lived in, Vestal, is less nice. And one day, my roommate and I came home, and as we were pulling in to park in our lower driveway, we saw someone coming from our upper driveway, walking out of our house that we were renting, and he had a sack over his shoulder. No joke. Had a sack over his shoulder of stuff.
Hobo look.
It was a hobo, a big fellow with piercing blue eyes, and he was walking out of our apartment, and I stupidly, and let me tell you folks, if someone is robbing your house, just stay safe. I stupidly ran up to him and grabbed him and said, "Hey, that's our stuff." And he
and you weren't even being a dick about it. Like, this is even when you were still a Mormon at this point. It's not like you're like, "Hey, you fuckwad, give us our shit back." You're like, "Hey, just please give us our stuff back."
I didn't. I was like, "Hey, that's our stuff." And he shook me off, and then I grabbed him again, and I was like, "No, you can't take our stuff." And he backhanded me, and I went to go punch him back. And as I went to go punch him back to turn my head, I couldn't turn my head to see him.
God.
And my roommate was about 5 feet away from me at that point, and he said, Steven, you're bleeding. And I reached up and I touched my neck, and I came down, and my hand was covered in blood. Now, this scene of this movie, like, when I see this, I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like, yes, there's so much blood. He had cut me from right, like, a millimeter. I will post a picture of the scar, maybe a millimeter away from my throat on the left side of my neck. From the millimeter away from my throat all the way back to behind my ear, he slit me with a utility knife. It cut my sternocleidomastoid, which is the muscle you use to turn your head, which is why I couldn't turn my head.
And it also makes me cringe because, like, I also have that thing where it's like any like contact with my Adam's apple. Like, I want to pretend that it's the fucking worst. Like, I don't even like ugh. And I know this story, and it still is just making me like cringe. Ugh.
When I see someone with a large Adam's apple, it also grosses me out because I'm like, oh God, it's just trying to touch me.
And they just bob up and down when they talk and stuff. They like move. It's like, ugh.
So anyway, the guy just walked away. By the way, we live South Knoxville, Vestal. There were 5 cars waiting at a red light 4 feet away from me when this happened.
Holy
the red
shit.
light changed. They all drove on. They all saw it happen, and they all drove on.
God.
So just so you know, people in the South that are like, we'd help out anybody. No, you won't. If you're in a poor area of town and you see something like that happen, most of you will just drive on. Anyway, so good news was I made it to the hospital. They were able to stitch me up and stop the bleeding. Bad news was the bills were really high.
Oh, God.
Secondary good news, the state of Tennessee has a victim of crimes fund.
Hey.
And yeah, way to go, state of Tennessee. Actually doing, I mean, I'm sure by now they've gotten rid of that, but
yeah.
At that time they had a victim of crimes fund, and all of my bills except for about $200 were paid.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, and other bad news, the Knox County Police did not care at all. They didn't even follow up with me. They didn't do anything. So, if you live in a poor part of town, I'm not going to pretend like race doesn't matter. But if you live in a poor part of town, even if you're white, the police don't give a fuck about you. So.
And basically, if somebody's robbing your house, just maybe let them just take the shit. You can always get shit back, but
escape if you can. Get out. Yeah,
don't get your throat cut by a bum's rusty box cutter like Steve did.
Yeah, don't. Do not. Just, you know what? I mean, protect yourself when you need to, but if you can get away without the confrontation, a lot of people, if they're robbing your house, they're already crossing lines you wouldn't cross. So
yeah, what are they willing to do next, right?
Yeah.
They may be travelers on the outer realms of experience.
Oh my God, a Cenobite cut my fucking throat.
It's the only explanation, dude.
Well, they never caught him, so that would make sense. He went back to his dimension.
Yeah, exactly. What he did is, like, as soon as he after he cut your throat and you fell to the ground, he actually turned into a big winged bone demon and flew away.
Awesome. And then he flew into the golden child.
Yeah, exactly.
Also a winged bone demon. Anyway.
Whenever the mom gets her throat cut, though, it's really disgusting and brutal. The makeup, I don't know if it's makeup or if it's a combination of makeup and CGI, but it's really great because, like, her throat splits open and then it starts bleeding. It looks fucking disgusting. Yeah. It's so bad.
Yeah, and it's like we hear a lot after that. We hear like a lot of like squelching and sounds like that, but we don't see it. We only get Marie's perspective. But she comes out of the closet, and the mom's throat is cut, like, almost all the way to the spine.
Yeah. And there's, like, a severed hand. Like, her hand has been cut off, and it's over by the phone.
He cut off her hand, yeah. Maybe, like, there was, like, she was trying to defend herself or something. I don't know, but it seemed like if you cut off a hand with a straight razor, you got to work at it, right?
It seems like that was a recreational hand cutting.
Yeah. But this is the first indication. I mean, if you already have seen it and now you're watching it again, this is the first indication that Marie may be the killer, because the mom looks at Marie and she says, "Why?"
Right, exactly. And again, that's the kind of thing you don't pick up on, but she's literally asking her, "Why? Why did you just fucking kill me?"
Yeah.
And then we see Tom. Tom is like running, right?
Yeah, Tom runs out of his room and runs outside, and the killer, the guy that we keep seeing, who, by the way, is great at being creepy.
Yes. He is extremely
so
imposing and scary, and he's like evil Steve Brule.
Yes. That is what he looks like. I would love, by the way, if there was a remake of this movie, but Steve Brule was the fake killer. And he just said Steve Brule shit, but just brutally killed people.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Why'd you take your hand off, you Drangus? Oh my god. And so Marie goes to Alexia's room to try to check on her and see if she's still alive. And Alexia is like on her bed, and she's gagged and she's chained up to the bed, and she's really scared. Like, she's just super, super, super scared.
How confusing. Like, if this really happened, if she really did like go in to check on her, how confusing would this be, as she just chained her up and gagged her, walked out, and then walked back in and was like, "Oh, there you are." Yeah,
exactly. That, like, at that point, you as Alexia would be like, "Holy fucking shit, she is a lunatic."
And she seems to respond that way, just like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, but as a viewer, you're like, oh, she's just in shock because of what's happening. But it's like, no, she's rational. Yeah. She's just like freaked out because her friend is clearly two different people right now. And they hear Tom outside running through the cornfield, and the killer's going through him. And you see the killer has like a shotgun, and you just hear the shot. You don't see the kid get shot, but you hear the shot.
Yeah,
and
you don't.
That's where you were talking about, like, Tom is like screaming for mom and stuff, which you're so right. Like, it shows Alexia, and she's like, "Oh shit, that's my kid."
Yeah, and I really do think it is, and I think that that adds depth. That adds depth to like the meaning behind, like, somebody kills your parents. Obviously, you want revenge, but someone kills your child, like her revenge on Marie is much sweeter. If you realize that she killed her kid.
Right. And Marie goes downstairs to try to use the phone, and she sees the phone line has been cut. And she hears Alexia screaming, and then we see the killer carrying Alexia out in the chains and stuff, and he puts her in the truck. And then we also have that shot of the killer back inside of the house, and he's looking at the mantle over the fireplace there, and he's looking at all the family photos, and he finds that picture of Alexia and Marie in Spain. And he cuts out Alexia's face out of the picture, which is pretty cool. And Alexia gets in the truck with Marie, and then the killer gets back in the truck, and that's when they drive off, right?
Yeah, and he adds the picture to a number of other pictures in his rearview mirror. So, has Marie killed other people, or is Marie adding some colorful background to make it seem like you need to be looking for a serial killer? I saw so many pictures, etc.
Yep, that's a big question that I had too. Yeah, because he has all these other cut out pictures of other chicks that you just assume he must have killed. But then, yeah, I'm with you. It's like, really? I mean, is that even remotely real? And and so they're kind of hiding in the back of the truck. There's sort of like a partition, sort of almost like how a limousine has, where there's a little window between the cab of the truck and the back of the truck. So the two girls are hiding up against the partition, so the killer can't see that Marie is in there as well. And he's drinking some booze. He's getting his road swag on.
This is another indication, I guess, again, once you know that she's the killer and none of this is happening, another indication that something's off. She's like blatantly trying to unlock the door with the knife and like making tons of noise and stuff. And it seems like, oh gosh, horror movie cliche, like, for some reason she's able to do this without drawing attention.
Yeah.
But of course she is, because it's not real. It's not happening.
Yeah, exactly. That was something I had a question about. I was like, how did he not see? Because the killer's always looking in the rearview mirror and stuff, but He doesn't see her trying to like unjam the door. But yeah, you're right. It's because it's bullshit.
Yeah, she like unlocks the door and he pulls into a gas station. She slickly gets out and runs in and tells the attendant she needs help and then runs and hides.
Yeah, she's like, call the police, and then she hides, and the killer comes in, and the killer's like, hello, Jimmy. So they're on a first name basis and stuff. And it's at this point, which I thought was really interesting, because like the killer is wearing kind of like a Slipknot jumpsuit, like he's maybe a member of Slipknot. And he's also got like a hat, and he's got the hat kind of down low. And it's like at this point in the movie, we actually still haven't seen his eyes. And the killer is talking to Jimmy about, he's like, oh, this is the perfect place to bring girls, because it's like late at night, nobody's there. He's just kind of talking about how you could bring a girl there and have a shag any old time, basically.
Later, when the police will come here and watch like surveillance tape of what actually happened, and that's sort of the big reveal. But like, my issue is here, she is telling the story. She would know that they have the surveillance tape. So how much of this is she actually like sticking to what actually happened? Because when he's talking to her about pretty girls coming in and he's putting on like sunglasses and stuff, it all seems really flirty.
Yeah.
Like seems like, and for an old creepy man, it's like, well, what's going on here? But like, if she's telling, like, you know, she's trying to stick to what she actually said, because she's like, well, they have the tape.
Yeah.
But she's like, but that wasn't me, that was the other guy.
Yeah.
She's telling him, like, you know, this is what happened. So I feel like maybe that part is a little more accurate.
Huh. That's because like you could totally see a chick doing all those lines in a flirty way. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. Like you get a lot of pretty girls in here, and she's like, what about these sunglasses on me?
Yeah. She's like, how do I look? And shit like that.
Yeah.
Huh. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, that would make sense if it was. Yeah. Huh. And so the killer dude wants a bottle of some good old J&B, and Jimmy, the gas station guy, sees blood on his hand, and he's like, oh shit, like what the fuck's going on here? I've never had J&B.
Yeah. I don't remember enjoying it. Yeah. But I think I was a younger man. I've found I know when I was younger I hated whiskey and bourbon, and now I absolutely love it. So I haven't tried J&B for a long time, so maybe I like it, but I think it's just cheap liquor.
So while the clerk is getting that for him, he turns around and gets scatmanned. He gets scatmanned.
He does
so hard. That good old axe to the chest.
Yeah, and then the like he falls forward, and then the kick on the back to further drive the axe blade in.
The sound effect is disgusting. It was totally like some guy driving an axe into a watermelon or something really juicy and gross. It sounds fucking gross, dude. And so Marie sneaks out as the killer like closes the store down and turns off the lights and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, and she goes down to the bathroom, and we have this classic horror movie bathroom scene where it's like, check every door, etc. The killer checks every door except the last door and then just goes and pees, which again is like the tension, again, if you're watching it the first time, you don't know the reveal, the tension is building. Great. But if you know the reveal, it's like, well, he's just not going to find her. Yeah. And he doesn't. He just doesn't even open the last stall to see if she's in there. Because, again, she's telling this huge lie to the police, and it's just like, I guess it was a miracle. Like, he just stopped right when he got to me.
Right. And so then, like, he leaves, and Marie goes back into the gas station and calls the police on the phone to try to give them a report and stuff about what's going on. And the police are like, oh, you know, where are you at? You know, what's your address? And she can't find the address because she doesn't really know where she is. And so she gets all frustrated and, like, hangs up on the cops, right?
And she's being intentionally vague almost, it seems. Like, or she really is going through this, like, split personality thing where
she had some missing time where she woke up and she's like, I don't know where I am.
Yeah, because she's being very obstinate and not helpful. I mean, I've called 911 before. you gotta be as calm as you can.
Right. Yo, have you ever called French 911 though? 911?
Oh shit! I haven't called 911, but I bet when they answer, it's like they say something like, "I do not care about this life," or something, and then they like blow smoke.
I don't fucking know. Have a glass of wine and some cheese.
Or you get like a message and it's like, you will be now transferred to one of our mimes.
Oh,
and then
fuck.
You're saying shit and you have no idea like how they're responding. Are you in a glass box? I don't know. Are you pulling a fake rope? Are you rowing behind a couch? Just tell me.
And I wish whenever she slams the phone down, if it would have started playing 911 as a joke by Public Enemy.
Yeah, because it is in this instance.
And so she reaches under the counter and she gets a gun that Jimmy had underneath the counter and stuff there. And she gets the keys to Jimmy's car, which is like kind of a Kill Bill-esque yellow muscle car kind of thing. And that's when we get some Muse pumping on that soundtrack, some brand name music.
Yeah. Yeah, not that terrible reggae from earlier.
And then we cut back to the killer's truck, and he pours some of the liquor back there through the partition on Alexia, and then lights a match to light a cigarette, and then he holds the match like through the grate like he's about to fucking set her on fire. Which that was a great high tension, like, oh fuck, kind of Hills Have Eyes moment. And so we see that Alexia also still has the knife, the kitchen knife that Marie grabbed earlier. She's got the kitchen knife back there with her in the back of the truck. We see Marie in pursuit, and they're kind of chasing down some back roads and stuff, and Marie kills her lights.
And she has a rebel flag sticker on the back of the car.
I know,
Did you notice
I'm like,
that?
what the fuck? Like, who in fucking France is like, les stars and bars?
Les stars and bars.
Like, why?
The South will rise again.
Just the good old boys.
Never meaning no harm.
Our accents are way all over the place.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I've never claimed to be good at any accent, though sometimes if I say the phrase "in the States" in an Australian accent, it kind of sounds believable.
Oh.
Are you ready for this?
The problem that I have
just
is
in
like the impressions that I can.
You ran over it. Damn it!
Damn it! Go ahead, do it again. I'll make a note. I'll make a note and punch this.
I think that's actually funnier. All right, here it is. Here's my believable Australian accent. If I only have to say I was just in the States. Okay. I was just in the States.
I find that extremely believable.
Yeah, I couldn't say anything else. Like if a kangaroo came along and somebody was like, kangaroo, I'd be like, I don't know. Is that a drop bear? What is a knife?
See, like, my problem is all of the accents that I can do are of people that nobody knows. Because they're just normal people, like some of my like guitar students and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So it's like, I can do a great impression of my student Nate, but nobody knows who that is. But that sounds just like him.
Oh my God. I hope Nate's listening and his whole family is listening. And then I hope that his father has been disappointed with him his whole life. Yeah. But then as they're listening, Nate looks over at his father and his father looks at him with a tear in his eye and nods.
And then he goes, "That'll do, pig."
That'll do, pig. And Nate's like, "Oh my God, my dad loves me." Was that Nate? I never heard Nate, so.
"Oh my God, my dad fucking loves me." It's kind of like that.
Let's play some Malmsteen.
Okay, so anyway, back to the flick there. We got kind of a little chase going on here where the killer is being pursued by Marie in the muscle car, and so then they kind of go down some back roads and stuff, and yada yada. It turns out that the killer ends up behind her. He's kind of gone on some other separate back road. He starts like ramming Marie in the muscle car and like runs her car off the road, and it like flies and then fucking crash lands and it's on fire, wrecks her car and shit.
Yeah, a good tense car chase. Like, it's really good.
And so Marie gets out of the car there, and she's all like beat up and bloody and stuff like this.
Yeah, she's bleeding. She got a big wound on her arm. She's bleeding pretty profusely.
Right, and she gets out and she finds it's kind of like a greenhouse, like a big plastic wrapped kind of greenhouse or something like that, wherever she is in the woods. And she starts hiding in there, and the killer is in there looking for her and stuff. And she finds like this post in the greenhouse that has like barbed wire wrapped around it, and she sort of like pulls the post up.
ECW.
Dude, literally in my notes, wraps wire around post, ECW, ECW, ECW.
Yeah, it turned into a Japanese death match, and then I immediately, when that happened, I was like, that guy kind of looks like Terry Funk.
Holy fuck, that's also in my notes.
Yes,
because he totally does. Like, he's just this old grizzled ugly guy, and he totally gets fucking Terry Funked, dude.
Yes.
And he jumps out and like wraps her head in some of the plastic, trying to suffocate her. It's cool
terrible
too,
way
like,
to go.
as he's smothering her, the plastic is like just kind of that sort of clear, almost shower curtain material plastic.
Yeah.
And like there's, her wet blood is like kind of seeping through and smearing around on the plastic. You can see the plastic getting like sucked into her mouth, and there's this great like heartbeat sound effect as it's going on. It's really cool. It's very convincing. Like, this is what it would look like for somebody to get fucking smothered in plastic. And she falls down, but she's not dead. And then the killer says to her, "What do you want from Alexa? She turns you on. She turns me on too."
Yeah. So there's this conversation finally between her and her killer's side. I mean, she doesn't say anything, but there's a communication,
a dialogue,
and he starts.
You realize they both want the same thing, which is Alexia.
She cracks him on the head with this big rock, and then takes the barbed wire club and just starts beating his head in.
It is ridiculously it is ECW to the fucking core. The sound effect of like that first shot where she swings it and it sticks in the side of his face, and you can tell when she sort of pulls back on it, it kind of pulls his face with it.
Yes.
It's like you can hear the barbed wire tongs like sticking into his fucking bones of his skull. It is punishing. It's one of the most brutal things I've seen in a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, it's awful. And then she chokes him in the plastic, right?
Yeah. She, because she goes, she starts to check his breathing, and he grabs her and starts to choke her, and she starts suffocating him with the plastic. She gets away.
We see the police arrive at the gas station, right?
Yeah. So it cuts to the police, and the police are checking out the gas station, and the detective, finds the body, and then he looks at the
surveillance tape,
and we see that Marie is the one who killed the attendant with an axe.
Yeah, she scatmanned the attendant, which I thought was kind of interesting. That I feel like if this was an American movie, they would have saved that reveal until the very last 5 minutes. But at this point, there's still 30, 40 minutes in the movie, and you find out early on, Marie's actually the killer.
Yeah, and there's that's where we get the beginning, I guess, of the full transformation into the killer, because she runs back to the truck, and she takes the chains and the gag off Alexia, and Alexia's like, she's like, I killed him, and I saved us, etc. And Alexia's like, no, I'm gonna fucking cut your face off. You killed my family.
Yeah, she's like, don't touch me, and all this stuff.
Yeah, and then she does. She slices her across the face and then stabs her with the knife. Now, this is, I believe, Jason, or Friday the 13th Part 3, was it? Where Corey Feldman kills Jason and just goes insane.
That's
Jason.
4. He goes plumb AP on Jason.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah.
You don't stab and run. You stab and 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 stab. And when they question your sanity, you say, she killed my fucking family and almost killed me.
And this is cool too, because you see Alexia stabs Marie, and then we see the killer pull the knife out. It changes from Marie to the man, pulling the knife out.
Yeah, and his face is his face is so ripped up. And we should talk about, and we haven't talked about so far, the effects of this movie.
They're fucking great.
All practical.
Is it?
It's not CG. As far as I understood,
it looks
this
like
is
it.
not. The effects are made by a guy who used to work for Lucio Fulci.
No way.
Director of many giallo films, and like. That's the thing about this movie is because it comes at a time where everything was fake, that when you're watching it...
Yeah, 2003 is like prime shitty CGI in movies era.
Yeah, you're watching it, you don't think like, oh, they did this practically. But these are all makeup effects. These are all like really great effects.
The blood, especially, I find the blood looks fantastic. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but it's like I'm really picky in movies about blood and the color of blood, especially when when blood's been exposed to oxygen, it turns that brownish, rusty sort of color.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it looks fucking fantastic. Like the blood all over Marie's head and her arms and stuff and her clothes. It looks like blood that has been exposed for hours, and the blood looks wet and it reflects light really well. And I don't know, the blood effects are especially great in this movie.
Absolutely. I really love it.
Me too. So after Alexia stabs Marie and the killer pulls the knife out, goes back to the truck and gets that big ass concrete saw. Apparently that is a handheld, brutally heavy duty saw that is used to cut slabs of concrete.
Yes. Now this is where, I mean, a number of times this movie is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but this is like
very much,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre homage. Like that's what they were going for, because she's running and she, flags down a nearby motorist. She gets in the car, and here comes Marie with this cement saw and just starts sawing at the windshield of the car.
Dude,
now,
it's so fucking great, dude.
It's so insane. And this actually reminded me also because it's so like animal and brutal, and how like it reminded me of the chimp ripping away the blinds on that window in the shutters on that window in Phenomena.
It is, dude. And man, it's like this is one of those, to me, really pitch perfect scenes of violence in a movie, because it's almost sensory overload, because in the back seat of this guy's car, this poor innocent fuck that just wandered into this scenario, you have Alexia and she's screaming bloody murder. You have the sound of this concrete saw that is just like raging high-pitched mechanical white noise. Then you've got the sound of it cutting through the glass and busting the glass. Then you've also got the overwhelming visual stimuli of that saw just tearing that guy fucking open. And blood is spraying everywhere, dude. It hits the camera at some point, which apparently like fucked the camera up, but it looks so good they kept it in the movie.
Yeah.
And like it's spraying all over Marie's face as she's screaming. Like it's so violent. It's hard to take it in. It's overwhelming how violent that scene is.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best gore scenes in any horror movie ever.
Yes, for sure. Like I was just gonna say that. Like it's so real too. Like it's not over the top. It's realistic.
Right.
Blood coating everything inside the car.
I really love too, and this is just a small thing, but for some reason it made it so much more gruesome to me. But like when we get that side view of the poor driver in there and he's getting hit with the concrete saw.
Yeah.
It's almost like the concrete saw is just barely nicking the front of his chest. Like it's not like you know what I mean? She's not pushing it in like 6 inches deep.
Yeah.
Like it's really only about like half an inch is hitting the guy, so it's just skimming his sternum. It makes it
hurt.
Oh my god,
so
makes it so much worse, because if you see him like fully impaled with that thing, you're like, oh, he's already dead. But that thing is just nicking him, and you're like, oh, he's fucking feeling that.
Just ripping flesh off the bone.
It's so bad. And during all this stuff, the guy dies, and then the killer goes off to the side of the car, and he's like pushing the concrete saw through the through the window of the side of the car where Alexia is, and Alexia's screaming and stuff, and then we get that awesome shot of the killer where he puts the saw down and he just like goes like kind of mock screams like her and stuff.
It reminded me actually the scene where he was pouring the liquor on her and like, you know, pretending like he was going to catch her on fire, and this reminded me of the cook from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, who doesn't get involved in the killing but has these like really weird sadistic streak to him, and that's what like is coming out here. Like he's just making fun. I don't know like how you could ever get to that mindset where the sound of someone frightened for their life, you're just like, let's make fun of that.
It reminded me too, is a very Buffalo Bill move.
Yeah,
like very Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And so Alexia escapes. She finds a crowbar in the back seat, and she pries the door open, and we see her crawling off, and she's got like this gigantic shard of broken glass like around her
Achilles tendon. Oh.
And she pulls it out, and it's like one of the most hard to watch things I've ever seen in a movie. It's so fucking gross.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's when
that's rough.
Marie as the killer, and again, this is especially now that you're kind of talking about how the kid, you know, maybe Alexia had a kid and stuff. This is actually more interesting because the killer is like, "You drive a woman crazy, you little slut," and then he says, "Do you love me? You love me, don't you?" "Yes, I love you." It's maybe it's the kind of thing where like maybe what a lot of this madness stemmed from is like Marie had been in love with Alexia all this time, and then Alexia goes and gets knocked up by some guy and has this kid, and that just really set Alexia off over the edge. Because the whole movie, she calls her a slut like 4 times in the movie.
Yeah, she's obviously angry at her for, and again, it's like that guy, the neckbeard we all know, who pines after the cute girl that he probably could have dated if he wasn't such a fucking weirdo about it.
Yeah.
But like the idea that like there's something you could do that would make you be together.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, such as being a man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Oh, good call. Oh, didn't think about that. Like this personality's developed because but it's also like he's real creepy and nasty. Like that's her view of men.
Yeah.
It's like they use women. Like the first thing we see of him is him using a woman's head to masturbate. So like that's her view of men. That's what she sees in men, and that's what she's like disgusted at the idea that she lets men be a part of her life and fuck with her the way, because she also said that she likes men who are already in relationships. So she's obviously in a lot of not good relationships, not healthy relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good insight.
Yeah, for sure. That's really. Hadn't thought about that at all.
And
really
so
good.
Then, like, Marie kisses Alexia, and Alexia's kind of going along with it just enough to where she can drive that crowbar straight through her and impale Marie.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
And that'd take a lot of force for sure. It would. You'd have to hope it was a sharp enough crowbar, but she definitely she just drives it through her right shoulder. Which, you know, when you see it, it's like, well, that wouldn't necessarily kill her. And obviously it didn't, because what we then see, we cut to her in the hospital. Again, what we saw from the beginning. Yeah. Cut to her in the hospital. We see the scars. So it's been a while. She's like healing from all of her wounds. And she's, I guess, done telling the story. And Alexia's behind the two-way mirror. She says like she can't see us, right? Because Marie is staring like right directly at where she is.
Right.
And she's repeating what she said at the beginning about how no one will get between them. And then there's I guess the final like scare is she like reaches towards where she is.
Yeah.
But she's chained to a bed. She's not gonna be able to get to her.
Right. And that's where the movie ends.
A lot of enjoyable parts, and certainly a movie that has a lot going for it. What do you think, Ben?
I liked it. This is one of those flicks that I definitely did enjoy watching. I saw it again, like I said, maybe about 9 months or so ago. So I'd seen it for the first time not too terribly long ago, and I still enjoyed watching it even after that short of a time. Mm-hmm. It's and I know I've referenced this on other episodes too, but it's not necessarily one of those movies that puts me in like a good happy mood, like watching, like a good old school slasher or something like that. It's a pretty grim, brutal kind of movie, very creepy, very brutal at times. I wouldn't say that's necessarily one that like makes me happy to watch, but it's a really cool flick. I would say if I was going to give this like an out of 10 kind of rating, I would probably say this is probably about a 6 or 7, 6.5 out of 10, something like that. What about you?
I would give this a 6 for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot I like about it.
Yes.
I like the gore. I like the brutality. I like the just showing a reality of the just disgustingness of murder.
Right.
I like those elements. I dislike, and I don't exactly dislike this about most movies, but I dislike about this movie that you do have to watch it twice for the value of it to fully come out.
Right.
Watching it once almost feels, the ending feels cheap. It feels like you have to be able to go back and watch it and connect a lot of dots to see like how the story actually does connect really well and how everything does make sense.
Yeah, because otherwise, and this is something that I saw from a lot of other people's reviews about this movie, otherwise if you don't, and I think if you watch this movie on a very surface level, it just looks like the whole twist of her being the killer seems like such an easy way out. Just the whole, twist, none of that really happened, Tyler Durden did it,
Yeah.
I think to a lot of people, they misunderstood that, and then they go, wait, there was a lot of plot holes in this movie. And you go, well, yeah, of course. Like, you're hearing the retelling of this story by fucking lunatic. You're hearing their version of the story. Like, if there was another movie that was made that was Alexia's side of the story, it would be completely different, and it would be logical, and it would make sense. But you're hearing this movie as a recounting from a crazy person, which you don't realize the first time that you watch it, so you might just think it's full of holes. It is full of holes, but they're due to it being told by a lunatic. I would say the things that I liked about this movie, I liked the soundtrack. The Muse thing, of course, was the thing that stood out, but there's a lot of other music throughout the film that I really liked, and I thought fit the mood of the flick nice. There's some great sound design. Like I mentioned, some of those sound effects are so gross. And I like the aesthetic of the characters a lot. I mean, there's really only, let's see, the mom and dad, the boy, Alexia, Marie, Jimmy, the killer, and the two cops, which might as well not even be characters. I mean, there's like 9 people in this movie. But I find that they all have a really cool aesthetic. Like, you could just show me a still from this movie, any still, and I'd be able to tell you it was from High Tension, and that's Alexia. This is from High Tension, that's the killer. They all have a distinct, good look about them, which I like too. As far as my dislikes about the movie goes, maybe the fact that it's dubbed. Like, I'm totally okay with some dubbing, especially in those Italian flicks, like in those Argento flicks and stuff. I think it really just adds to how weird those movies are that they're dubbed and it's kind of shitty, and I kind of like it. With this movie, I totally would not have minded reading subtitles. I don't mind subtitles, and actually most of the time, I think you're the same way, most of the time, even in English speaking movies, I watch them with subtitles on anyway, just because I hate missing lines of dialogue.
Yeah, I keep them on all the time, yeah.
So it's like, I'm kind of used to sort of reading movies anyway, so I think I would have liked to hear the original actors and actresses' voices, even if I didn't understand the words. rather than seeing it dubbed and having that disconnect of, oh, their lips aren't forming the words that I'm hearing. I think there's a few scenes in it that are a little too long. Some of the cat and mouse scenes are like...
Yeah, they do actually take up the majority. Like, the kill scenes are all pretty quick.
They are.
And mostly the cat and mouse.
Yeah, like the bathroom hiding sequence, like that could have been cut by at least 30 seconds. Probably more, actually. And then like the kind of hiding in the shower sequence. A lot of those scenes, I think, could have been a little too long. And I wouldn't have minded having a little bit more development about the relationship of Marie and Alexia.
Yeah.
Because you don't really get a lot before the crazy killing starts happening. You don't really get a lot of that. You're just like, oh, they're friends. They've traveled, hence this photo from them in Spain. But I wouldn't have minded
She's never met her family.
Yeah. I wouldn't have minded seeing a little bit more of their... even little hints of the unrequited love that they have. Now that we've been talking about this sort of, maybe Tom is actually Alexia's kid thing, maybe even getting a little backstory about that stuff that would have made it more rational for, Marie to turn into this multiple personality killing machine. I wouldn't have minded a little bit of backstory there. I don't hate that there's not much, but I wouldn't have minded if there was a little bit more.
Because it relies on the unreliable narrator trope.
Yeah.
We're always going to be deficient in the information we really want to know. And I think that's actually interesting when you do think about actual killings and when you think about why did this happen, and even when you get answers from the killer, they're never satisfactory. They never fully make you feel like, yeah, but like you're always thinking, yeah, but there are other ways you could have dealt with this. I think maybe some of that is a good artistic stroke, the deficiency of information, but I think, yeah, just like maybe even one little line that indicated a little bit more about their friendship could have really opened up, like, I guess, because it is a real jarring movement from, hey, we're friends going to stay at my family's farmhouse. Oh, my family's getting killed.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'll even leave it out there that, maybe there was something that got lost in the translation. Like in some of those lines where they're talking about boyfriends and how Alexia's a slut and stuff. It's like, maybe there is some stuff that just didn't quite translate right.
Right, yeah, some subtext that would have come out from the way she says things.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So maybe there's some of that. So I'll give it that benefit of a doubt. But those would be, I think, kind of my main criticisms. But still, overall, a very enjoyable flick, especially if you do like seeing some twists and turns, some kind of psychological Fight Clubby kind of stuff. The movie looks good. The gore effects are fantastic. So yeah, I'd definitely recommend checking this flick out. One of the better modern horror flicks from this side of the millennium, for sure.
Yeah, if you do like this type of horror movie, I highly recommend a movie called Bound to Vengeance. I think it does some of what these movies do, but also has more story to it, more like heart to it, I guess. And also Don't Breathe.
I want to see Don't Breathe. I still haven't watched that.
Yeah, that's really good, really brutal, really like in vein with this. Intense, very tense movie. Wow. Yeah.
Well, so for our next flick, we're going to, in the style of the Cars, shake it up. So, as I mentioned before, I really enjoy talking with my main man here, Steve, about some talkies. We're both really huge movie guys, and we like stuff more than horror flicks. So we've decided, and we'll kind of decide on the frequency of it based on how much you guys like hearing this stuff. But every now and then, we're gonna pitch you guys a little wild card action, just a little wild card where we cover a movie that isn't necessarily a horror movie, but perhaps is what you'd think of as being on the fringe of horror movies. So stuff that might involve a monster or a werewolf or an alien or a cyborg or something fantasy related, stuff that's kind of on the edge of horror. Not necessarily like watching You've Got Mail, but I'm saying that every now and then for a wild card, we might pull something like a Terminator or a what'd you say earlier, like a RoboCop or something. Just something that's like
RoboCop, sure.
Not necessarily horror, but it has stuff you might see in a horror movie.
Now, guys, keep close hand on your heart medicine if you have a weak heart when we name the movie we're about to name, because it's going to cause some terror.
It might cause a little ruckus because it is the first film in an extremely ridiculously successful franchise of movies and books by the name of Harry McPotter and the Sorcerer's McStone.
Oh man, I love the McDonald's tie-in. I like how they wove it in there so it doesn't really stick out too much.
It's seamless product placement integration.
Yeah. You know what, like whenever Hagrid shows up and he's like, "Oh, Harry, here's your Whopper." And Harry's like, I think you got that wrong. You meant Big Mac. And he's like, "Oh, right, Robbie Coltrane." That was my Robbie Coltrane impression.
He does say his name frequently.
Yeah.
Even as his character. So on the next episode, just to shake things up a little bit, we're going to be covering Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, mainly just because I really want to talk with Steven about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and you guys are going to be subject to it. I am a ginormous Harry Potter fan, and I have I have actually seen the first movie like a billion times. Like I would say upward of like 100 times, because it's one of those that I just put on and play guitar while I have it on. You know what I mean?
I've seen it. I have not seen it as many times as that, but I do not as regularly as I rewatch The Lord of the Rings, but I do pretty regularly rewatch the Harry Potter movies or reread the books. Big fan.
It'll be fun because the first movie like kind of sucks. Like all the acting is just fucking terrible in it.
Oh, and the CG.
Oh god, it's so bad. So it'll be a really fun one to talk about. So be sure to tune into that one whenever we put that bad boy out here really soon. I'm already really excited about it, and yeah, it'll be a fun one.
Yeah. Wild card, bitches.
Wild card. Well, Steven, in the meantime, where can they find us on the social media and keep in contact with us?
Well, you can always email us at deadandlovelypod@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter or Instagram at deadlovelypod.
Oh, Steve, where can they find you on those social media outlets?
Well, on Twitter, I'm at Steven Spratling. That is Steven with a V, the only way to spell Steven. You could also find me on Instagram, same name. You could also, if you're really looking for me, you could find me probably on Tumblr or Snapchat, any of those places that I hardly ever go anymore.
Or the mean streets of Las Vegas, California.
Yeah, you guys know about Viva Las Vegas.
Myself, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Ben Eller Guitars, and you can also find my YouTube channel over on youtube.com/Ben Eller Guitars. So find me on there and learn something about that guitar. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to go on iTunes and write us some reviews, even if it's just like saying, "I like damn." Just leave that in a 5-star review, and that would really help us get a little bit more visible and easier to find on those iTunes charts and stuff like that. So please do write and review. Don't use bad words or else they won't post it. Say use church words. Use your church language.
Yeah. Hashtag I like them.
In the meantime, you guys have been great, and we have been Dead and Lovely. See y'all later.
See ya.